This is EECS 1012, Lab 3, Search and Rescue Lab. So we're going to start by, first we had opened the VirtualBox appliance. I'm going to go ahead now. And Peter's going to explain the HTML.
Okay, so in the HTML, the first portion of the head, this portion, simply just links the JavaScript and the CSS to the main HTML. The body portion outlines how the canvas is going to look and the boxes for input, and also the text headers and the words.
Now you're going to go and explain the CSS, please.
Okay, the CSS is pretty simple. All it does is, for the main body, describes the width in pixels, the color that it's going to be, the font of the words, the size of each letter, the style, the weight, which is italic, bold, and how the radius, which is 10 pixels.
And then there are different classes and ID formats for each of the radar range, and over here you can see the elapsed time and distance to target variables. So the JavaScript was the main part of the code that did the work, and as you can see, there's quite a bit of JavaScript. First we set a target size, which is how big the little red square that you're going to see is going to be. We created a start time and an interval ID, and variables for the rescue boat, for the target, for the direction, for the radar range, etc. So the start function basically defined the canvas based on the values you can see here given to us that the user has to put in. And then we also checked these values to see that they weren't negative and that they were within the height of like a browser window. So that detected that, and if the user put in an invalid height or width, it would reset it back to the default. Then we defined where the rescue boat would go, so it would be a random spot, and where the target would go, and the motion that was set into for the direction of the rescue boat, and also its radar range, which is basically its width or its radius. So we took the interval ID and we basically made it to 5 milliseconds, which refreshed the page every 5 seconds. It made for a faster animation rather than it being 15 milliseconds, which it was before. What we noticed was if you take away the clear function, or if you take away this clear value here, the boat will leave a set of trails behind it. So what we did here is we just cleared it first, then we drew the target, we drew the rescue boat, and we updated the progress, and if the rescue boat ended up hitting the target, we checked that, and if it was true, then we'd stop the program. Otherwise, if the rescue boat hit any of these corners, it would bounce back. One issue we had was it wasn't hitting the corners, and I'll explain that fix a little bit later. So this is the clear function. If this was taken away, you'd get the duplicates of the rescue boat. So this is just a drawing of the rescue boat on the canvas. It's just defining its shape. And then we drew, so that's the target, and then we drew the rescue boat over here. So here's where we had to fix the X boundary and the Y boundary. Originally, these were just return and rescue X is less than or equal to the width or the height. What we had to actually do was take the value of rescue X. We had to add the radar range to it, and we had to divide it by 1, otherwise it wouldn't work. And then we had to check that against the canvas width, or if it's subtracted from that, and then we had to bring the rescue boat back into phase. That was the same for the Y boundary. The update progress was just to get the elapsed time and to get the distance from the target, and that's also given by this formula here, which is the distance to target, which calculates this value over here. And then to check if the target was caught, we just calculated to see if the distance to target was less than the radar range, and we return true. So we're just going to demo it working. So to get it working, it wasn't actually demoing within the VirtualBox appliance, so we had to move it to the shared folder on the computer, and then you move to your shared folder.
And we just run it through Chrome.
You run it through Chrome, yeah. So we're going to leave the variables as they are, just so you can demo it, and as you can see, the boat moves around till it hits the target, then it stops, and it gives you the time and updated stuff. So we can run it again and again till it works. That concludes Lab 1. Those are all the things we learned. Thank you very much.